let's take a look at these quarterfinals and beyond and just throw some things at the wall here and see how we expect they will stick in the quarterfinals and beyond. John, when you were out a couple weeks ago, RJ and I basically spent 45 minutes writing an audio love letter to the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So I'm going to stay on them at 8-1, not necessarily to win the national championship, but I love the value on the bet. And I think they beat Oregon. I think technically an upset, even though they're the higher seeded team. I think they beat Oregon. I'll go so far as to say I think their big playability and their opportunistic ability on defense pushes them past Indiana. I'll take Ole Miss for an upset, too, over Georgia before they lose to Ohio State. Yeah, let's get spicy here. I think your national championship game is Ohio State over Texas Tech. I know the Ohio State pick is fairly chalky, but I think we get a little Cinderella action if you want to consider a 4-seed Cinderella-ish. But I'll take Ohio State over Texas Tech, John. How do you see the quarterfinals and beyond playing out?
I don't know, man. I just feel like Indiana might be a team of destiny. Are they not a Cinderella in their own right? I know they're in the Big Ten, but come on, they were a doormat. Have they ever been anywhere close to a championship contender or even a real football program for any amount of time? I mean, I think this is pretty amazing, the transformation that they've undergone here under Curt Cignetti. So plus 320, I'm going to buy the ticket and take the ride, as my man Sammy P would say.
Yeah, my thing with Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, there's just no value there, right? There's no value. Right. I'm looking for some value. I think if you were to tell me that I could just take a flyer on Oregon, Texas Tech winner, and then Alabama, I think I might do that just for a national title run, just because of the odds at 8-1 and 16-1. That's really only the value that sits. I mean, you could get some individual value on the games. I think plus 200 for Bama against Indiana is pretty decent. Doubling up your money. I mean, this is by far the biggest game in the history of Indiana football. And this is like the, for most of the guys at Alabama, this like for the university. I mean, this is like just one of a million games. So this is such a huge moment for them, and then you just wonder how they're going to be with a month off. So I actually like the Alabama 16-1, and then the Oregon Texas Tech. I don't really have a great feel on that game individually, but I think the winner of that game is a real problem for everybody else.
Yeah, I love the Oregon Texas Tech look, because I do think that team, as much as you point out, John, that Indiana has, I guess, Cinderella, as much as an undefeated team could be Cinderella, has Cinderella written all over them because of the history of the program. I'm just curious to see what happens. Choppy also brought up the fact that this is uncharted territory for them. If they get that win in the Rose Bowl, right? If they beat Alabama and they go on to the semifinal against either Oregon or Texas Tech, is there any kind of air let out of the balloon? And that can happen in a positive way as much as a negative way. We've talked about it before with teams that all of a sudden realize their season is over or they're not going to make the playoff. The air comes out of the balloon. I think of Georgia Tech at the end of the year after they lost to Pitt. I'll be curious. I don't think maybe the same applies to Vandy in their bowl game just because it's Pavia's last ride. But I think you see that a lot, and I'll be curious to see if it happens after a positive outcome. If Indiana wins against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, is there just a little bit of a sigh of relief? Like, hey, we got to a big game and we won it. And then what? I don't think it's likely given Curt Cignetti and the way he approaches things, but I still think it's something you have to work against if you're the Hoosiers.
Oh, I mean, they're already doing it now. They were doing it in the Big Ten championship game, right? Being number 2 in the country. Nobody really expected them to win. Nobody expected them to be here. Mendoza was a little talked about quarterback transfer from Cal. I mean, the fact that they were even in this position at all to, a month ago, I think it's been a battle all year long for that. But I think now that they're here, I think they feel like we have a mission. We have a mission to complete. And look, the game's got to be played. I mean, everybody wants to win. I mean, Miami's saying that. Miami's saying we got a mission. That's more believable from some teams than others. But yeah, I think Indiana is going to be, psychologically fine where they need to be, for the rest of this playoff.
Psychologically, I think that I agree. I think they're fine psychologically. This game is everything. It's like if they get by this one, this is one of those jumping off points where it's like, okay, here comes the run. They got to get by this. Obviously, reset everything when it comes to having the time off and getting your feet under you again, and then really just the demons. Like mentally, sports are such a mental game anyway.